Is it safe to say that the Bowmans were like the first family of Titusville? I don't mean like the first family moving to Titusville, but in terms of the place that Bowmans had in terms of the various businesses and activities in which the Bowmans were involved.
Well, I can factually say that my grandfather, Joseph Henry Bowman Sr., had property there in 1919 on 4th Avenue South, which is the side of the grocery store. The grocery store was built on the corner of 4th Avenue South and 1st Street South. And in fact, he had a store on 1st Street South at 424 1st Street South as early as 1920. So they were there very early in the 1900s.
Talk to me about the various ventures in which Bowmans were involved in Titusville.
Well, initially there was the grocery store. My father completed A&M University. He received his bachelor's degree in biology at Alabama A&M University. Then it was mechanical, agricultural and mechanical college, I think. But it is now known as Alabama A&M University. My mother graduated that same college as well. And after graduation, he had intended to continue on into a medical field. However, my grandfather was becoming ill, and he started a family with my mother and decided to work in the business. So he built a new grocery store on the corner of 4th Avenue and 1st Street South. And that was, it was a groceteria, a full-out grocery store with buggies, and it had 2 cash registers, which was a big deal, and a butcher department, fresh fruits and vegetables, frozen foods, drinks, canned goods, everything you could buy at the A&P on Goldwire and 6th Avenue. At that time, Bruno's had, I think, a store as well in Smithfield. So yeah, that was my father's first venture, and he was a serial entrepreneur. So he also had a company called the old grocery store he used to start a diaper service for the community, where the diapers would be picked up, laundered, and delivered. And that was Tiny Tots Diaper Service. That was a fun thing. I still have some of the flyers from that time, just as memorabilia. He also had a fencing company and aerolite foam insulation company.
When you say fencing, you're not talking about swords and sabers.
No, we're talking about homes that and commercial buildings that needed exterior fencing for the property. Yes. So yeah, so he had quite a few companies. And of course, it was Joe's Laundrette as well as the Tiny Tots Diaper Service. That was housed in the old grocery store. And of course, the new grocery store down on the corner. And our family home was adjacent to that grocery store at 404 1st Street South. But by 1958, he decided to go into pest control as well. So that's one little sore spot because Dad couldn't. Well, he was a college graduate and taking the test. He knew he had passed the test. However, he was told he did not pass the test. So of course he took it again and again, and he always told me, he said, it's the same test, nothing different. I didn't answer it any differently, but I've got the license. So he was finally certified in '59 and started the company Bomac Exterminating Company Incorporated.
Do you believe, or maybe more accurately, did he believe he was experiencing discrimination and racism?
Absolutely. No doubt.
Just because he was black?
No doubt. There were no black pest control companies in Birmingham. I don't know that there were any in Alabama at that point.
So the people who were administering this test wanted to maintain the status quo?
I would think so. It was out of Montgomery, Alabama, where the Department of Agricultural and Chemical Industries resides. At the time my father passed, John Block was the director of that department. And I can say that when I went to take the test, I passed the first time, and that was in 1980. But 1980 looked a lot different than 1958.
Obviously, you were in Titusville, but Titusville was in and is in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yes.
Talk to me about, well, first, your experience growing up in Titusville.
Oh, wow. It was a wonderful community. We didn't have anything to want for. We had, well, let's start out with, as a little girl, my mother was a musician. So I started playing piano very, very early. And I was precocious. I liked to do a lot of different things. This is a picture of my kindergarten graduation. And this is very special to me. My lifelong friend, Bernadine Hogan, who is pictured here, sent this picture to me. And I was reminded that lifelong friends are on this picture. There's Bernadine Hogan, my lifelong friend. There's also William Bell sitting next to her. And there's, we know that he was the previous mayor of Birmingham. My childhood friend that holds my teenage secrets, Dr. Freeman Rabowski, former president of University of Maryland at Baltimore County, is on here, as well as his cousin Paul. So all of these people are right from Birmingham, from Titusville. And we were at Mayette's kindergarten. Mayette's kindergarten, right there at Green Liberty Baptist Church, which was 2-3 blocks from our grocery store. So needless to say, we had everything we needed right there in Titusville to get young people started, in this world. And I have to say, there was a philosophy of no child left behind even then, because I'm looking at one person on this picture who was a bad child. He was so bad. I will not call his name, but he turned out okay because of, I think, not only his parents, but the parents in the community, Mayette, the teachers at Washington Elementary School, the teachers at Oldman High School, just making sure that every child was educated and had a sense of purpose and responsibility, and that they were here to make a contribution to this world. We didn't we were given confidence from our teachers right there at Washington Elementary School. And then going to Oldman High School, there's Dr. Reverend Rice, who was Condoleezza Rice's father, was the pastor at the church on 6th Avenue. When we got to high school, he provided trips for us to go and visit colleges in Atlanta and various places, so that we already at I think that was 10th grade, ninth or 10th grade. Well, I think I went on a ninth grade trip and a 10th grade trip with him. And so we were focused on going to college, of course, being on this preparation track of, going to higher education. And while some did not, others went to vocations, because we even had vocational classes taught in elementary school. So, and of course at high school level as well. So there was plenty for everybody to do, even those who couldn't afford to go to college.
I've been told from conversations with people, Titusville seemed to have it all. Titusville, as I said, had the various businesses that the Bowmans were involved.
Cleaners.
Yes.
We had a cleaners. We had beauty salons, newspaper station there. We just had quite a bit.
2 bowling alleys.
Bowling alley, yes.
Someone told me of a theater.
Yes, that's right, on 6th Avenue.
Right. What people called a golf course where Loveland Village used to be.
Used to be,
So you really didn't need...
You didn't go anywhere. And for my love of music, we had Gregory White, we had Laverne Coma, who lived 3 doors from where we moved after my mother and father divorced. Jessica Ivers Hayton, right down the street from me, and right another few blocks in another direction was Mabel Clark Bohannon. So, I mean, there's 4 outstanding piano teachers, musicians, ministers of music right there in Titusville. And of course, my mother. Yes, Dr. Ella Joseph Bowman Jones, minister of music for over 81 years at First Baptist Church, Grapevine. So, Gregory White was my instructor until I left to go on an exchange program. Well, it was a one-way exchange to Yellow Springs, Ohio, and live with a Caucasian family for a year in my 11th grade year. And this was arranged for through the Lutheran Church, of which my father was a member, and Pastor Elwanger was the pastor. I saw his picture here at the Civil Rights Institute. So glad to know that he received a humanitarian award. Great man. But yes, all of that right there in Titusville.
But Titusville was not the extent of the world, even Birmingham.
Oh, no.
At what point, if ever, did you experience racism, perhaps elsewhere in Birmingham?
Well, I have to say, as a child, my parents were very successful in keeping it away from me. My father would often go to the wholesale house to pick up cigarettes or just certain items. However, City Wholesale was the company he worked with, and they would deliver most everything. But there were sometimes he might go to the meat house, or he might go to this place down on, it's on the Cobble Street, Morris Avenue, yes. And there were, when he to get candy and certain items that would at the front of the store. And he would take me with him. But I think they were Italian, but they were just so kind. I remember that about them. But yet, when you would go to Loveman's or Pizitz or some of the stores downtown, there was a different feel. But I feel like my parents kept me guarded from much of it. I've gotten a lot of it as an adult. I learned a lot about racism as an adult.
Well, conducted against you as an adult? Or that you learned of in looking back?
Oh, no, just, yes, against me. For example, after becoming certified with the state of Alabama with in entomology, my father died in '80. I took over the company. I worked with the Jefferson County Pest Control Association and the Alabama Pest Control Association, and initially it was an old boys club. I would go to the meeting, and I might be the only woman there, and they're telling jokes, inappropriate jokes. So it took a while for that to change. I stuck it through and actually became an officer. I have to give credit to people that are due. Butch Coughlin, who's no longer with us, was a good friend, and things did change in the organizations as time progressed, so that it wasn't uninviting.
You mentioned those trips to those downtown department stores, Bizets, what have you. On those trips, did you see the signs of white only or?
Of course. Of course.
And in going downtown, did you drive there in a vehicle or did you take the bus?
We would drive.
Okay. In seeing the signs that said white only, um, were there reciprocal signs that directed blacks to go?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Colored, yes. And we knew we wouldn't eat at the counter. We would eat before we left home. So you were aware of those things, but I feel that our community was very good in keeping us, what I want to say, focused on positive things in our lives. Because how often did we go downtown? Shopping was not like it is today. You might go at Christmas time and look at the windows, the pretty windows, or you may go to get a new pair of shoes. Um, but you weren't just, it wasn't in your face all the time. And I just have to really, I have to just applaud my community, my church, and my family for protecting me as a young girl during that time. What really hurt, and I wonder sometimes how we made it through mentally, is the bombing of 16th Street Baptist Church. Those three of those girls I knew personally. That was a wake-up call. That was a wake-up call, like none other.
Waking up to what?
The white-only signs, for colored signs, segregation, and hatred. Because there was nothing but hatred that could bomb a church. That was a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call. At this point, it was more than marching to ride the bus and sit where you wanted to sit, or marching to sit at a soda fountain stand. It was more, much, much more. At this point, it almost felt like war in our own city.
Was it a war that you felt you could win?
I'm thinking about the moment in 1963. And I have to say, it was frightening. However, we had such a faith and Jehovah God that we knew that we would overcome. When we sang that song, we knew, and we were young people, and we were not afraid. We would sing, "We are not afraid," and we believed it. We believed it. That moment, though, on Sunday morning in 1963, it was devastating. It was devastating. But we had some very strong, influential leaders. And I will start, first of all, with my father and my mother. My grandfather, Reverend Dr. R.M. Joseph. My grandmother, Nancy Ware Joseph. Both my maternal grandparents, because my paternal grandparents had passed. I'll start with them, and then there were others. Reverend Woods, whose church was within a mile of First Baptist Church, Graymont. There were others. Reverend Shuttlesworth. There were others. Reverend Porter at 6th Avenue Baptist Church, right there in Titusville. Not where it sits now, but on 6th Avenue. There were others. Reverend Nelson Smith, Reverend Smith. And I remember Nelson so well because when he first came to Birmingham, my grandfather embraced him, and he was a young man. And I remember him calling him Nelson. But anyway, that church also was right there on 6th Avenue, right there in Titusville. And Reverend Martin Luther King would come and speak at those churches, and we would rally, and we believed that we were not afraid and we would overcome. And we did. I'm here now. And when I think back, it's like, how did we get here? Because, that was a mental issue to go through at that time. And to follow that up with the shooting of the president and, and then ultimately in 68, the shooting of Dr. Martin Luther King. That hatred that was ingrained in us that we witnessed was very difficult, very difficult. And I'm sure everyone else my age can say the same thing.
What did you learn in Sunday school about Jesus loving and valuing all people? And how did you compare and contrast that with what you were seeing?
Well, I was able to do that really very easily. Going back to the time I was a little girl, and we would walk into this warehouse, and there were nothing but people of white color that were kind to me, that would offer me candy if my father would permit me to have it. And there were other persons I would meet in being with my father that were not of my color, but they were kind. Pastor Elwanger, right there at the Lutheran Church on 6th Avenue, 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks from my home. Very kind. And there would be interns who would come to Birmingham and work with him in the summertime, and they were very kind people. So you learn that everyone's not the same. You have to meet people on their level. So I think it was easy to distinguish that there are some who hate and some who don't. I think we had to believe that in a sense.
I know
to
some people
have some hope.
I know some people, particularly back in the 60s, who absolutely deplored Caucasians. They hated white people. And the notion of spending any time with a person of the Caucasian persuasion was completely foreign to them. But you speak as though you're able to compartmentalize those who were of one mindset versus another. Was that just a something learned from church or your parents?
When it comes to values, I have to credit again my parents and my grandparents for the values that I hold. We are taught in church to God loves everyone, all the little children, red and yellow, black and white. They are precious in His sight. When coming up as a young girl, I believed that. I believed that until the day, that Sunday in 1963. It it was so in my face. It was so much more in my face than the signs. Okay,
Actors spoke a lot.
that was in my face. The signs, you know, you can ignore them. You can ignore them. As a little girl, I did ignore it until that point of being more mature. You know, I'm talking about 2 and 3 years old. 4, 5, 6. But now, Denise is gone. We just, we played with dolls together. She's gone. Cheryl Wesley. She lived in Smithfield, where my grandfather's church was. I knew her through other organizations. I played piano, so I did competitions and such, and I met a lot of people that way. And then I took dance from Miss Joseph at the Smithfield Community Center, but Miss Joseph was from Titusville. So we had ballet and tap and jazz and contemporary dance. And so, here is Cheryl. I had been to her house for a meeting for something not long before that. And then there was Carol Robertson. Her father was my band instructor at Washington Elementary School across the street. Carol's gone. That was hard. That was hard. And to know, to hear it as we're going across the railroad tracks from Titusville to Smithfield to go to church. And that's what we hear that over the radio.
Had you heard the blast?
We felt it. We felt it. Yes, we felt it. Yes.
You felt the blast.
It's like, what was that? And so I must have heard it, but I remember feeling it for some reason. Maybe I didn't feel it. Maybe I just heard it, but it made me jump.
You mentioned Reverend L. Wenger and his wife Joyce. Describe them. And you've kind of given some indications already. Your recollections of them.
Well, they were they worked there in the community. I didn't know them as well as my father because my father attended that church, while I attended First Baptist Church, Graymont, where my grandfather was pastor. But he was just always a very kind person, and I just remember the summer programs that he had there. Were very enlightening. Like we would have at the Baptist church, we would have the Vacation Bible School. Well, they would have little summer programs as well. And what I just remember about him is how kind he was. And when I was recommended to go on this one-way exchange program and stay with a white family, at first I was a little not sure I wanted to do it. And then I said, yes, I'll do that. And of course, this is Yellow Springs, Ohio, the home of Antioch College, which is the college that Martin Luther King's wife graduated from. So I accepted. There were four other boys who were selected, one from Selma and three from Birmingham.
You mentioned, of course, that it was a one-way exchange.
Yes.
Why was it one way?
I think the effort was to have black youth from Birmingham have the experience of living with a white family and getting to know white people and be able to come back and integrate the schools here in Birmingham. So my 11th grade was there. My 12th grade was at Ramsey High School, a previously segregated high school. So I think that was the motivation for this one-way exchange. There was a student there also, though, from Châtillon, Paris, Denis, and Anne. There were two there from Paris, but no student went to Paris. That was just a student coming into Yellow Springs, Ohio. So it was a one-way, even in that sense.
I guess my wonder, and maybe I'm being...
You think of exchange, well, a student would go there and somebody would come.
Oh, yeah. And that's sort of my point, that black children such as yourself went and lived in the home of a white family. But you didn't have any white kids who came to live in the home of blacks.
No.
Did you ever think about that being a little imbalanced?
Well, I did think of it. However, I thought of it as just what the program was designed to do, to give a black child an experience with a white family. And again, that did, I guess, confirm my thoughts that everybody's different. You know, just because these white people hate black people, there are some who don't.
Mention a few names. What are your thoughts, recollections of George Wallace?
My first thought is politician. He closed the doors, University of Alabama. Then he flipped. He definitely did not want to accept black people in the University of Alabama. He was a segregationist. But when he needed to, he stepped back so that he could continue his role in politics. But yes, I do think of him as someone who hated black people.
Bull Connor.
Oh my. It's very hard to think of Bull Connor and think of forgiveness in the same breath.
Have you?
It's a good question. That's a good question.
Variation of it, the question. Can you?
Well, as my faith says, we have to forgive. And since I have to do that, that's a difficult thing. That's a difficult thing. That is very difficult.
My father, among his many sayings, and he had more than I could chronicle, would talk about someone burying the hatchet,
But not forgetting.
but leaving the handle sticking up, so that the next time they get angry, they know exactly where to go to read and say, I remember when you did this. Wait, I thought
No,
we
we
forgot
buried
about that.
that.
Oh, we buried that. Well, I'm pulling it back up.
Right, exactly.
It's not really gone.
Never forgotten, never forgotten, never forgotten. And those two names are very good reason for me at this point in time to look back and say, you know, I could just be in a mental institute. It was just that bad.
The Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth.
I remember him as a very outspoken man and vibrant and a very charismatic preacher.
Could you see him? Could you see yourself playing that God on bearer role that he took here in Birmingham in the face of the opposition that he experienced?
Could I see myself carrying walking in that
Yes.
his shoes? I think so many of us did to a certain degree. Of course, he was out front. He was, he was doing a lot, taking a lot of oppression. But as you know, I definitely had that spirit. 63 gave us a lot of a lot of determination, a lot of, I'm not afraid attitude. We definitely had that attitude. And of course, by the time 68 came, we were just, oh my goodness. I was at Howard University, and, you know, 14th Street was just burned to smithereens. And everybody was ready. We were doing sit-ins in the college, and everybody was just ready to march and do whatever was necessary, because it had just gone too far. It just had gone too far.
You mentioned 1968. That, of course, is the year that we lost, or rather had Martin Luther King Jr. taken from us.
Yes.
At that point, did you feel that the battle was over, that, okay, they've taken away our general?
No. No. In the black community, and I venture to say, I'll go back to what I said earlier. There was this movement of no child being left behind. Kids were educated. We were educated. We were given the fear of God, and we were given the confidence that God could see us through anything. And it was a sad time, a very sad time. But I do remember that being a time of, we've got to carry that banner on, that it was not over.
Ridiculous question, but I'll ask. Why do you think whites fought so vehemently hard to squelch the effort toward civil rights for blacks?
Oh, their lifestyle was threatened. They were losing their nannies, their housekeepers. Not maybe at the time, but they knew that was coming. People get educated, they go on with their lives. They have a need to be superior. That's something, though, I have found in even some of my closest friends who are Caucasian. There's this need to be right, this need to be superior, and I think I don't know whether that was embedded in them as a child, but their whole lifestyle was threatened by civil rights.
Their world.
Their world, their whole world as they knew it.
You say these are friends of yours even now?
Yes, I can say that. I know them well and they know me well. So,
Well, okay. Now we're getting into some serious semantics. You know them well, they know you well.
mm-hmm.
I'll go off on a tangent. I'll come right back.
Okay.
Bear with me. When my my family, wife, daughter, and son moved to Hoover,
Mm-hmm.
our son, who was rising to the fifth grade, I think it was, yes, immediately had a posse of boys. They were white,
Mm-hmm.
with whom he could play. As long as he had someone with whom he could play video games, he was absolutely content. Our daughter, whose first 2 years of high school had been at Ramsey, and now she was at Hoover, her definition of friendship was different. The people at Hoover High School, in her mind at that point, were simply acquaintances, people to whom she had been introduced, people she had met. Her friends were still on that campus on South Side.
Right.
Which brings me back to your circumstance. The people of Caucasian persuasion who you know,
Mm-hmm.
who you know well, and they know you
Yes.
well,
Yes.
are they your friends or are they your acquaintances?
Okay, I have I do have some acquaintances that I know like that, but I have a couple of friends who are friends, but I know them. I mean, they have really been true friends to me, and I've been true friends to them. Some things you just can't unteach.
There is some element of 50s and 60s Birmingham in them to this day. Is that what you're saying?
And I think this goes to personality more than anything, really. Uh, but yes, and I'm sure they don't even realize when they're doing it. But yes, but they've learned that when they think they're right, and then we go through the elements of it. You know, if I'm taking the opposite stand, they find out, but they don't like to be wrong. They don't like to be wrong. So, and that's just the only point. That's really the only point.
Sure.
Yeah.
And of course, you are a musician.
Yes.
You cited the song that was sung back in the 50s, We Shall Overcome.
Yes.
Have we?
No. There's so much more to be done. I have to applaud today Reverend Wesley, who's out of Titusville, next street over from 4th Avenue. He grew up on 3rd Avenue. He's the pastor of Greater Shallow Baptist Church. I attended a unity breakfast this morning where his nonprofit organization, the Cornerstone Revitalization Foundation. Cornerstone Revitalization Foundation is working with young people who are children of incarcerated parents, and children who are not just don't have the opportunities that maybe other people have, or who've been in trouble themselves, and they need a foundation for work and for education. So he's working with those young people. Sheila Tyson and the commission have they donated $25,000 to this initiative today. Terry Sewell was able to donate 1.5 or 6 million. There was another donation of a 1.5 million that they received. So they're able to reach out already to 30 young people, and their goal is 100 young people. They are reaching back so no child gets left behind, no young adult gets left behind. I think this, so we do have people and organizations that are working now so that we can overcome. But we've got so much work to do. So much work to do.
Coming back to Titusville, you talked about, and if I can put a word in your mouth, the almost utopian experience of Titusville.
Okay.
You seem to want for nothing. Titusville seemed to have it all.
Yes.
Compare and contrast Titusville of your youth with Titusville today.
It's just not. It's like we've gone backward. We've gone backward. Loveland's Village was there in my youth, and this is where subsidized housing was made available. And we may have thought there was some bad people in Loveland's Village, but it doesn't touch what we have today. It's, just right there at my business, where I'm noticing tennis shoes tied together and hung over power lines, and I'm wondering, what is this? And then I'm seeing young men walking with the pants hanging down, and you could barely speak to them to suggest they pull up their pants, for them maybe revealing they got a weapon on them. We were robbed a couple of times and shot at, and in fact, my son, Early Billups III, I was carrying my baby son, when we had the biggest robbery, where one of the robbers came behind the meat counter, coming up the steps, and met me in the back of the store. I had sent my son with the secretary to go out the back door and up the alley to the next house, the Cantelows. I'm sure you know John L. Cantelo. Well, he's previous band director, in our city. His parents' home was right there. I called Aunt Dozana and sent them up there to use the phone, call the police. While I go down, he breaks away from the secretary. He's 4 years old, comes down and starts kicking the guy who's got the gun at my stomach. But this is Titusville, where everybody knows us. And, we give credit to them, and they love us. But we're being robbed, It's like, where is this? This is not our community. It's not our community anymore.
Do you know if the perpetrators were from or of Titusville?
They were not.
They were not.
They were not. So the people in Titusville now, you barely know. A lot of, you don't know everybody anymore. You used to know everybody, but you don't know these people.
You say these people, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, work ideas. Is it a different class of people now?
The class is a drug class of people. People who take drugs, sell drugs. That's the best way I can describe the class.
So Titusville is not the utopia of your youth.
No.
Can it come back?
We're striving to do that. We're striving to do that. It's been a long haul, though, for me as a woman. As of 1985, I bought out my brother's shares for the company. So I was there with Bomac and the grocery store. My mother was there to help me. She came out of the classroom. She was an educator for many, many, many years. And at that time, she came out of the classroom to help with the business. And knowing that there were just women there, I think that was part of it. But it was very difficult to get community help, with people hanging around to get the police. You would call the police, ask them to uh, monitor. They'll do it up to 2 weeks. And then, you have to call again and they'll try to monitor again. But long haul. And they come and they want to sit outside. And, you can't keep your business going with them hanging around and breaking in at night, even with the alarm systems and what have you. So you've got that cost. Your outside heating and air systems with the copper coils. They were taking those. I don't. I lost count on the number I had to replace over the years, and we're talking in the 90s now. Yeah, we're talking in the 90s and coming forward. Started in the 90s and through 2000 up until the building was burned in 2021. And it was arson. Someone set the building afire.
Which of your buildings is that, excuse me?
The grocery store, the Bomac building, and then 6 months later they burned the house that my grandfather lived in at a time. 400 First Street South, 420, 404 First Street South, and 420 First Street South. They also did burn Dr. Canelow's home as well, but that was a few years back before they burned, before 2021.
Back in the day, the enemy would have been whites coming from outside looking to attack Titusville or anywhere else, any other place in Birmingham where blacks resided. And I know from prior conversations that there were men of Titusville who would patrol to make sure that these invaders did
Absolutely. Yes, I remember that as a child.
But now, what you've described is a circumstance where the enemy looks like you.
Looks like me.
And yet, you're not moving on from Titusville. You have not said, okay, that's it, I'm done.
No, I have not. And it's just very difficult. Very difficult. I mean, difficult to just this simple little thing of driving up before the building was burned and having to go inside and get this little tool I have to pick up 1,000 pieces of candy wrappers, cigarette butts, and beer bottles or soda bottles or potato chip bags. Just trash. We would never treat our community like that.
There was a sense of, there was community pride.
Oh yes, there was pride. But
not now?
No. I mean, for years we had to do that. For years. And it's still a problem now. They will come and squat on the porch. You're in the building. You go to the door, and you say, "Would you please not sit here? This is there's no loitering. We've got a sign there. It's a business. We need people to be able to come to the business. This is not the park." But it's a new world. It's a new world. So getting the police to help, it's a non-ending cycle.
when it comes to the ills that have invaded Titusville, can you overcome?
We're hoping to. We're hoping to. We're at this point with the building burn. Right before that, I was in the process of um, doing some renovations actually, and we had applied for a status of a historical building. And I was very excited about the prospects of things that I was going to be doing with the property, and then it gets burned. Well, I'm happy to say we did receive the historical designation from the county as well as from the state. So now we're eligible to be considered as a historical building nationally. So I'm really happy for that, wanting to bring or keep the legacy there for our community. And so that's going to be a big job to restore the property. Yeah. So we're not giving up, not yet.
Is there anything, we've talked now for nearly an hour, my apologies for having tortured you in the manner
Oh,
I
that's
know that I
okay.
have.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that comes to your mind that through my own ignorance or sheer stupidity I have failed to address?
No. I'm just here to answer questions you have about, the time I think of my growing up and time in Titusville at this present time. I do think there was one thing I had jotted down that I did not address. And I've got pictures that I brought of my grandfather and my grandmother and my mother and my father. From them, I received so much. And I think, yes, this is my grandmother. Her name is Nancy Ware Joseph. And she lived to be 92 years old. And a wonderful, wonderful woman to look up to and aspire to be in terms of her character. And
She was what? Was she a professional of any sort?
no, she was not a professional. She was a homemaker. And what a homemaker she was. The home was spotless, clean, sanitary. She made the best food for nourishment. And she was a great wife for my grandfather, who was a minister and pastor of First Baptist Church, Graymont. So that was a job of sorts, with working with the people in the church and inviting them to the home and having meetings with them and things like that. She worked in the church teaching Sunday school, but that was her only job. Hmm. I did learn to cook from her
And this
and
gentleman?
aspire to have a clean home like her. This is Reverend Dr. R.M. Joseph, whose sermons we still have, where he would write them out on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and fold it in half. So while it wasn't the size of a note card, it was, just a great way to write his sermons. And if you think about it, he did not graduate elementary school, but he was educated. He did not, his subjects and verbs always agreed. He could, he knew the Bible very, very well. Of course, he attended Bible school, and he became president of the Esonian Bible School that was on 8th Avenue in Smithville. And that Bible school, actually, they were in trouble at some time for finances. And Dr. Wilson Fallon documented in one of his books that it was Reverend Joseph who loaned them the money to keep the school going. And that school is combined with the other college now, and so It's the Birmingham Eastonian Baptist Bible College, and it's in the western side of town. But I learned from this man uh, dedication and stick-to-itiveness. Um, there was something we used to say: if a task is once begun, see it through till it's done. Be the task great or small, do it well or not at all. And I have to say, he demonstrated it. My grandmother demonstrated it. My father, Joseph Henry Bowman Jr., demonstrated it. And my mother, Dr. Ella Joseph Bowman Jones, demonstrated it. I learned that from them. And that's something I think that's very, very important. Also, kindness to others. You asked me how could I go and stay with the white family in Yellow Springs. I guess there's a certain level of kindness that I learned from these people, to be kind to people until they're just not kind to you. So these are those things that you learn that are ingrained in you, that becomes who you are. That becomes who you are. So I have a world of debt that I owe my ancestors, because they did teach me so much. This man would come into, unlock the church, sweep the floor if necessary, pick up people to take them to church, take them home. And he was just a good man. And if you talk to anybody who knew him, they tell you the same thing.
Considering what your grandparents were and did, and what your parents were and did, do you even feel you have a choice when it comes to continuing your journey?
I don't. I don't. I don't have a choice. If I had a choice, I would have sold the property before it was burned to the entities that kept coming at me to sell it. But I don't have a choice. And I have my father and mother's picture in there. Also, I wanted to bring out learning from them, work ethic as well, and faith in God. Definitely my grandfather, my mother, who was a minister of music at First Baptist Church, Graymont, for over 81 years. Yes, she started as a little girl playing for the choir at 12 years old. And she played until she was 93, okay, and died in 94. She was an educator as well, so community, being concerned about community, I got from my mom and my dad, who also, it was important to give back to the community. When I closed the store, we had many charge accounts we just had to just let go because we were concerned about the community. If they couldn't pay, they needed to eat. So, community is very important. So I do a lot of community service. I work with children. Of course, I teach piano. I give them not just piano, but a lot of other things, a lot of life skills, because that's just who this man and my mom were. Okay.
Well, I think that's got what I need. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, because I forgot about the community service. That was a big thing back in the day too. How our parents worked within the community.
Back in the day, if a child grew up in a house that was devoid of a role model, dad was incarcerated, mom was doing something she should not have been doing. So that child couldn't, and you probably wouldn't want the child to look up to those individuals as role models. But in Titusville, you could look down the street and you could see it, a doctor. You can look around the
Yes.
corner, you can see it.
Yes, I forgot about
You
that.
can look two doors over and see someone who was operating a business, or as in the case of your family, multiple businesses. You could see all this, and a child could say, I want to be like that person. I want to have something like what that person has. Not looking to take it from them like the people you described earlier, but instead inspire, draw inspiration from them and use them as their North Stars as they progress through their lives. And of course, back in those days, redlining was real. So a doctor, a lawyer who was black, was going to live in the hood.
Oh yeah.
You were going to live in Titusville or someplace that was designed for black people. You weren't, despite the fact that you were of the same status as another doctor, you couldn't live in Homewood or Vestavia or anywhere else in suburbia. You were going to live in the hood. Now, today, a doctor can live in Homewood, Hoover, Vestavia, Highland Lakes. I mean, the most plush areas around. Doctors, lawyers, now judges can live in any of those places, and that is wonderful for them. However, the child in Titusville who lives in a house devoid of a role model now doesn't have one nearby either. And I dare say that those children are suffering as a result. Not saying that the doctor, lawyer, judge, whomever, who lives in Homewood, let's say, shouldn't do that.
Right.
But it does somewhat explain where we are, and maybe points out a responsibility that many of us should take on, which is coming back in and being present.
Absolutely.
It takes a lot more effort because it's not just driving home where you're being seen. You got to actually bypass home or delay going home to actually be present someplace.
Right. We had in Titusville Dr. Plump. We had attorneys, Attorney Williams. I know there are others I'm probably not remembering right now. Dr. Montgomery lived in Titusville as well. Dr. Stewart, Dr. Hamilton, yes. Dr. Stewart lived up the 5 doors from the store. His sons, James and Chauncey, were my friends. Chauncey died in a fire. That home burned, and he built another home right there on Goldwire, still in Titusville. Dr. Montgomery lived right there in Titusville as well. Dr. Plump had his business in Titusville on 6th Avenue. 6th Avenue had everything, but he lived in Smithfield. But he was still there and present. It just, the list goes on. I mean, we had so many role models right there in Titusville. So many. And educators galore. Yes, absolutely. So
you could almost call Titusville Teacher Town.
Oh yeah, you could. Washington Elementary School is a special place too, because if someone came to school and they needed a bath, Miss Mitchell Smith was going to take them in the back, in the room. She was the art teacher, and she had a little back room. She had soap back there and washcloths and what have you, and she would make sure that they got to have a bath, and would give them soap to take home. And we all knew, if we didn't put on our deodorant or, Miss Smith was going to take care of that. And it wasn't a thing to laugh at. It just meant Miss Mitchell Smith was going to take care of that.
Miss Mitchell Smith?
Uh-huh. That's her last name, Mitchell Smith.
Okay.
So she had 2 last names.
Okay,
Annie Mae Mitchell Smith. Yes, yes, absolutely. So, yeah. And then we had doctors, that were educational doctors like Dr. W.C. Matheson, who was principal of Washington Elementary School and subsequently became superintendent of schools for Birmingham schools. Um, yeah, Titusville was just an awesome place to be. Yes, absolutely.